Today we are going to be talking about Cuckoo. I am so excited. I have been anticipating this movie since late 2022 when we first got this photo of Hunter Schafer in this movie, and I'm pretty sure I've reported this to you in multiple like horror movies coming that should be on your radar type videos or like horror news. I've been updating you along the way on this movie, and it is finally here. It is in theaters, and I'm so excited about it. I feel like I haven't anticipated a movie for like years on end in so long. Like I feel like this has just been delayed a couple times, and I just have not anticipated a movie like this. And sometimes that is very, very dangerous to get your hopes up for 2 years, almost 2 years, because then that puts a lot of pressure on the movie. But then the marketing came out, like the trailers, and I did see a full trailer way back when it like first came out, and I thought it looked fantastic. And then I haven't rewatched the trailer since, and I kind of forgot some things that were actually in the trailer, which was a very good thing, and I avoided trailers post that time period. So I went in hoping to not have seen too much from the original trailer. So Cuckoo follows a 17-year-old Gretchen who reluctantly leaves America to live with her father at a resort in the German Alps. Plagued by strange noises and bloody visions, she soon discovers a shocking secret that concerns her own family. Now, this is directed by a German writer and director, Tillmann Singer, who has done a movie in 2018 called Luz. I'm not sure how you would pronounce that. Let me know if you've seen it. I think it was a German movie. I haven't seen it personally. I'd never heard of it. So I think Cuckoo is his like first major release, at least here in the States, and a major theatrical release. I'm gonna let you know right up front, I was not disappointed. My anticipation only added to the movie, and it did not fail me in any way. And this is probably going to be my most positive review of the year. So for everyone who says that I don't like movies, or I don't like any movies that I watch, I never give good reviews, here you go. Here's a perfect review for this movie, because I'm just saying I don't have any criticisms for this movie, okay? There's no spoilers in this video because of that. There's just really nothing for me to criticize, to be honest, for me. This is my kind of perfect movie. I gave this movie 5 out of 5. So there's your brief introduction to this review. It's just gonna be me gushing about this movie for however many minutes I decide to continue to gush about it. This movie is so freaking fun. Like, okay, I'm not trying to compare the two, but Long Legs I also gave 5 out of 5. And to me, that is a 5-star movie that is not entirely rewatchable. Like, I will be rewatching it because I want to see the demons and things in the background that Oz Perkins has said he has hidden away, kind of like Mike Flanagan style, right? So I am going to be rewatching Long Legs, but it's not necessarily one of those movies that's like fun on the rewatch, okay? Cuckoo is so fun, yet horrifying, yet so unique and original that I could see myself rewatching this at least once a year. Now, I'm not gonna lie, obviously I expected to like it. I knew kind of the elements that were gonna be in it, and you know, there's no spoilers. I want you to discover the horror elements and things for yourself, so I'm not going to be delving too much into that, but they work for me, man. They are my kind of horror elements. If you have been around for a while, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But I didn't expect to like it as much as I actually ended up liking it. Like, I was really nervous that I had hyped it up so much and was anticipating it so much that by the time it actually came to watching this movie, I would be disappointed, because that's a lot of pressure, right? And it just makes me so happy that the two movies that I have anticipated this year, Long Legs and Cuckoo, both got 5 stars out of me. Like, that is all I could ask for as a horror fan to get from horror this year. Now, Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens were fantastic in this, like no notes at all. They're perfect. I think Dan Stevens is really showing his range this year, because his character in Abigail could not be more different from his character in Cuckoo, and I just think he is a fantastic actor, and I'm glad he's in more things, especially horror movies, of course. And Hunter, I would absolutely love to see become the next Scream Queen. Like, I think she has all the elements of what it takes to be a Scream Queen, so I really hope she continues to do more horror movies. The atmosphere in Cuckoo is just, it's so good. Like, there's this eerie feeling throughout the movie. Obviously, we can kind of expect that. It's a horror, thrillery, mystery movie, so yeah, there's gonna be some like eeriness. Something's off, right? We know from the get-go that something is not right. But I think the tension is really good from the very beginning when we don't really know anything. Like, I had no expectation of like where this movie was going to go. The trailer, when I first saw it, seemed kind of messy. It was like, there's so much they put in this trailer, which is unfortunate because they really should have done more subtle marketing for this movie to have a bigger impact upon watching. So I guess if there is a criticism, it would be in the trailer that they do show too much. From what I remember, the first trailer being like, did they release another trailer? I'm not sure, but I remember it being like so chaotic and like, I don't know what's happening in this trailer. So when I went into the movie, I did not know what to expect. I was like, I don't know. I remember certain things from the trailer. I was like, I don't know when those are going to come into play or how that's going to impact the story. Like, what is the story even? But beautiful setting, beautiful cinematography. The bike scene in this movie, which is also in the trailer, again, unfortunate they put that in the trailer because that scene literally took my breath away. Not only because it was horrifying and I felt such like genuine tension in that scene and I was like waiting for a jump scare to happen. So it was just like so impactful in a horror sense, but also just beautiful cinematography. Like, that's such a unique creative idea to use the shadows of the street lamps and the fact she's on a bike, and it's just horrifying. Like, I loved that scene. It was definitely probably the best horrific scene in the whole movie. Speaking of horrifying, I already mentioned it, but the horror in this, incredible. It was so good. And again, if I had to critique something, I wanted more of it, but that's me being selfish. It was kind of on the subtle side. Can I say that? I don't know. Maybe can I say this is good for beginners? I don't want to. It's only because I think not everyone is going to be scared of this movie. Like, this isn't going to scare everyone. It didn't necessarily like petrify me. I felt a lot of dread in Longlegs, and so that movie is still like scarier. But again, we're not comparing or anything. I'm just saying there's a different ways to do horror, and I just don't know if Cuckoo is going to scare the majority. But it is a kind of horror that is so entertaining for me to watch, and that unsettles me, if that makes sense. It's not like I'm petrified, but at the same time, it's still horrifying. There are two specific kinds of horror that genuinely get me every single time that I absolutely love. I don't care how many times it's done in a movie or horror in general. I don't care. There are two tropes. I can't even say tropes, maybe they're tropes. Two styles of horror that I just will never get tired of, and this movie does both of them so well because it's very minor. Again, it's a little bit more on the subtle side with these things. I wanted more of it, but that's because I'm a horror fiend and I love that kind of horror, so I wanted to see more. But where it stands now, the amount of horror, the kind of horror is what makes it so rewatchable, and why I think maybe if you're sensitive to horror, it still would probably scare you, I think. But it's, I think, subtle enough that it's not going to be like traumatizing or anything like that. And also I want to say there are some shots in this that reminded me of 70s cinema, which I really loved. I love 70s cinematography and everything, and the style choices of the 70s that they kind of implemented in this. And honestly, this movie is kind of era neutral, I want to say. Yes, there's smartphones, so there is like modern technology, but I swear they intentionally made it kind of ambiguous, like era ambiguous at times. There's a character whose style is completely 80s. Some of the rooms at the resort, 80s. The cinematography and like the way they shot this movie felt very 70s. It honestly could fit into any era despite the smartphone. Like, besides that, it kind of felt like it could be at any point in time, which I love era ambiguous movies like that. Immaculate kind of did that too this year, even though there was a smartphone as well. Honestly, take away the phones to make it era ambiguous. I think that's almost better than making it so much within one singular era that they have to put in pictures and stuff to make you remember that it's from that era. I would honestly prefer it to be ambiguous. I think that is an undertaking and a very cool stylistic choice. So again, if I had to critique, take away the smartphones and make it, we don't know what time this takes place in. I think that would be really cool. Kind of like It Follows. The technology is weird. Do that effect. Like, that would be cool, where you don't know what era it's supposed to take place in because the technology does not exist within this world. This movie has so many strange elements. Again, I don't want to say too much or like specify too many subgenres here because that would kind of be a spoiler, I think. But there are a lot of weird elements, and where this actually ends up going is very unsettling and strange and bizarre in the best ways. Like, it is more than I wanted from this movie. I just think in general, this movie is so unique and so original and so well done, and I absolutely loved everything about it. Like, I can't really fault it. Just from an entertainment perspective, everything about it was so entertaining, and I wouldn't really change anything. Like, I can't think of anything that I would really criticize unless I like looked at it under a microscope after watching it a couple times. You know, maybe I could find then stuff to criticize. And that's not going to be for everyone. This is just a movie that was like made for me, you know? And this year we've gotten a pretty vast variety of different types of horror movies, I think. And this one is specifically my kind, like up my alley. So for me, I'm gonna say that this is my favorite movie that I've seen this year, for sure. That has come out this year. I definitely have to say it's my favorite horror movie of the year. I just don't know if anything will top it. Maybe Nosferatu, because I'm very intrigued by that. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't know if anything can top Cuckoo. Now, because I don't have criticisms, let me tell you about some that I read about. Maybe it would even be funny to read some negative reviews because I love this movie so much, to see what other people are saying about it. But I will say that I saw some reviews from critics, professional critics, I saw this on Wikipedia, calling it silly. Did we watch the same movie? I genuinely don't. I'm all for someone having a different opinion from me. That's not a problem, because most of the time that's the case, right? But silly? Are we calling Cuckoo silly now? Did I miss something in the movie? It wasn't a comedy. It wasn't really lighthearted. It was serious in tone. In fact, another critic said that this movie took itself too seriously. God forbid, you know, a horror movie be serious. I don't know. They said that it should lean more into being a B movie, and that it would have been more effective if it was like a little campier. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Like, no, thank you. I think it was perfect. The tone that it was in, everything about it. Just because I'm curious, I want to look up negative reviews for it on Letterboxd. I feel like I never read other reviews, like negative reviews on Letterboxd. So let's read some, shall we? A movie where way too much is happening, but also nothing at all at the same time, and none of it makes zero sense. Seeing Hunter Schafer on the big screen was worth it, though. I'm glad people are agreeing that Hunter Schafer was really good in this, and it's not her. This actually brings me to a point that I actually thought that the character development and like the character dynamics between everyone was actually really well done. And there was this emotional aspect, this familial aspect to the movie that I thought was executed really well, because it wasn't so much happening where it was like the main focus, but it was enough that we actually cared about these characters and like their dynamic between them. So I think it's really interesting that they say too much is happening, but nothing at all. So I think it was a great balance between stuff happening. This movie is so boring, and in the same time, it's interesting. But I don't care. None of the characters, I will not say this is a horror movie. It's so weird. I don't know what I just watched. Funny how people are like, it's too much story, but not enough. Like, there's too much happening, but not enough happening. It's so boring, but at the same time, it's interesting. It's like, it's very polarizing, it seems. Also, classic. I will not say this is a horror movie. That's great. That's great for you. It definitely falls in the category of a horror movie, but sure, we'll go with that. Okay, I'm seeing a couple reviews that say it's kind of confusing. This says, I found this movie to be ridiculous and make no sense whatsoever to me. And then this one, I really wanted to like this, but it was just so confusing to follow at times, and I don't know if I'm an idiot or the writing held things back. And I find that really interesting too, because my partner kind of had a similar thing to say. He's like, I don't know if I'm just stupid did, but I didn't follow some of the things in the end. And I thought that was really interesting because I love that this movie does not make the viewer feel stupid, because there's a little bit of a narrative plot dump in the end of like a verbal explanation of things, but we needed that. Like, this is a situation where we need that, right? But beyond that, it didn't spoon feed us. It didn't like do unnecessary flashbacks to moments that it could have easily done if it wasn't so much of like an independent horror film and it was like a major like Blumhouse movie, let's say. I feel like Blumhouse would have easily just like jumped back and forth to like underlying themes and like things that are being called back, you know, like the callbacks. And this didn't do that. It was just like little nods here and there and like things coming full circle that I absolutely loved about this movie. And I think part of it is like you're not meant to really understand everything that's going on, because we're watching this from the perspective of Hunter Schafer's character, and she doesn't really know what's going on, and we're learning as she's learning. And I think that's a really cool touch to have, that it's not treating us stupid and we're learning what we know what she knows, basically. All right, well, that's all I'm gonna read. I don't need to, read too many negative reviews. I just like that pointed out some things that I wanted to touch on that I forgot about. So anyway, let me know if you've seen Cuckoo in theaters. Highly, highly recommend it in theaters. Obviously, I think it's a perfect movie and no criticisms, really. I loved everything about it, and I cannot wait to rewatch it, because this is going to be so good on the rewatch. Such a fun rewatch. I could definitely just put this on at any time and enjoy it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Cuckoo. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.